Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. So today I'm here with the Harbor Freight 1,090 pound capacity, 40.5 by 48 inch utility trailer. And it comes in 2 boxes. So let's go ahead and put this thing together. This trailer normally is on sale for $3.99, and I picked it up when it had a 15% off coupon, so that saved $60. One of the things on this trailer is it does come with a title. And so that title work is in that plastic bag there on the box. Now at the cash register, they have to fill out some of the stuff on that. So that piece of paper, make sure you save that, because if you're going to title this, you'll need it. All right, let's open this up. So here is the first box. And here are the instructions, so that's always good. So I'll open those up and take a look at them.
As usual.
I will actually read those. Okay, and then here's the second box. So the second box looks like it mostly has the tires and the fenders, and looks like the springs as well. So I'm gonna lay all these parts out, and then we'll get this sorted out and start putting it together. Okay, so I've got everything laid out basically the way it is going to be assembled, and here is the box or the bag of bolts that it takes, and those each use a 17 millimeter socket or wrench. So I've got a 17 millimeter wrench. I'm going to use my impact gun to put these together, and the only differences that I'm going to do is this trailer comes with an 1 7/8" ball adapter that goes on the tongue. And I've got several 2 5/16 trailers, and then I've got a few 2-inch trailers. I don't have any 1 7/8" trailers, so therefore I don't really have any balls or receiver hitches set up for that. So I went ahead and purchased a 2-inch receiver at Harbor Freight, and I'm gonna put that on instead. And it looks like I'm gonna probably have to drill a couple holes to make that work, but it'll be worth it in the end. And then the only other accessory that I got is I did pick up a 1,000 pound capacity swing away trailer jack from Harbor Freight that it just clamps on the tongue and then swings up out of the way, rotates, and that'll allow me to keep this trailer level when it's just parked sitting. Okay, so a bolt goes on the outside and also down inside that channel. And then this is the rear beam of the trailer. This is the middle one. It faces the same way as the rear, and then the front beam faces back towards the middle of the trailer. So I'm gonna go ahead and put all these bolts in loosely, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I've got the frame built and tightened up, and now it's time to put the fenders and the axle springs on. So one of the things I found that helps if you're building one of these, of course this is upside down the way it's sitting now, but I put these 6x6s under each corner to get it up off the ground, and that ended up making it a lot easier to access the bolts and stuff instead of having to pick the trailer frame up each time you had to put a bolt in from the bottom. So there's my tip. Okay, and if you have and can use 6x6s like I did, it gives you enough space to put these fenders on and still clear all the ground. The other thing that I've seen is some people just wait and put these fenders on at the end. Okay, and an impact gun and a wrench sure makes it a lot easier. Okay, and these springs go on with the eyelet forward, so basically like that, and then the nuts and bolts on these are 19 millimeters. Okay, and you can tighten these brackets up enough to squeeze them together. You don't want to do that. Just tighten them till they have some tension on them, but you don't want to squish that bracket. Okay, we've got our fenders and axle springs on, so let's put the axle on. Okay, so this axle has a hole here and there's a little dimple on the spring, and we'll just put those together. There it is. And we'll put our U-bolts on. Okay, so we've got our U-bolts and our plates. U-bolt goes over. Again, there's a nut there that goes up. And it all just helps you line stuff up. I just did a bunch of work to my RV, and what I noticed there was these shackles went around the springs. These shackle bolts went around the springs instead of around the axle. So, like I said, if I didn't look at the instructions, I'd put this plate on top and that U-bolt up that way from it. But I did read the instructions, and this is how this one works. Okay, and these are back to the 17 millimeter. Lined up, let's tighten it up. Be careful, you can pinch your fingers. Okay, so we're ready to put the wheels on, and to do that we have to put the hub on it. Now the cotter key for this castle nut was underneath the plastic that came wrapped around that spindle. So make sure you don't throw that away as you're throwing away the trash. Then the whole hub is here together on the wheel. So we'll take that tire off of the hub and get mounted. And this takes a 13/16 socket. Here's the tire for a second. And here's our hub. So what we need to do is make sure that this grease fitting is tight, and then we need to pop off this dust seal cap. Gotta get creative in holding it. I don't know if you can see that. Coming nicely now. There we go. Okay, so there's our hub, and it's already got grease in there on the bearing. But I do want to get a wrench real quick and tighten up that grease fitting. Make sure that's tight. The other side, which I already did, was loose. Okay, so we'll take a 10 millimeter wrench, just make sure that's tight. Okay, and that one is tight. The other side, like I said, was loose. So this is how I put on these wheel hubs. So like I said, there is grease in that hub already. So I just slide them on. And I'll put the washer and the castle nut on. Slide that back. Then what I do is I just take an adjustable wrench and tighten this down until that hub doesn't want to spin very free. Once you feel resistance on it, then I just back off this castle nut one notch basically. So the instructions say tight, make this tight and then loosen it like a half turn, I think it said, but slightly loosen it. Okay, so that is now snug and that hub has resistance. So now I just turn that back until I can get the cotter key in the hub. Okay, so here's our cotter key, and this hole in this axle runs straight across. Okay, so let's see what that does. I think I'm gonna go one more off. Okay, and that actually is looser than I want, so I'm going right there. Okay, and that has some resistance. It's not gonna free spin. By the time you put the tire on there, it will feel looser because it's got more leverage. Okay, and then I'll just open up my cotter key. And what I like to do is just grab this lugless castle nut against the thing and then tighten it down. Kind of makes it nice and neat. Which, I don't know if neatness is necessarily a thing with these wheels, but I feel good about it. There we go. Okay, now then, we'll put grease in the spindle here, and then we'll also grease the dust cover. Okay, so we'll go ahead and grease our hub at the grease zerk. Okay, and I'll show you what I watch for. Okay, and once you see grease starting to come out here, that's enough. And it's pushing it out. You see that? So that's got enough grease. Then the instructions say to fill our dust cover with grease. And I've honestly never done that before, other than some of my trailers have bearing buddies that have a grease zerk here. So on those though, I don't believe there's a grease zerk on the back. So I'll just do what they say and pump a little grease into this cap. Okay, so we'll put some grease in this cap. And I think that's plenty. As this wheel moves down the road, centrifugal force will spread that grease out. So we'll go ahead and put our cap on. And on that, I just use one of the dead blow hammers. There we go. Try not to dent your cap. I've seen a lot of trailer caps that this whole edge is dented and like mushroomed down on it. So if you hit these too hard or with a steel hammer, you definitely can deform them. So try to avoid that. Okay, so let's put our wheel on. And we'll put our 4 lug nuts. Most people I'm sure know if they're building this, but on lug nuts, the tapered side goes against the rim. I've seen that on a few trailers and it always kind of makes me laugh. It's more decorative, I think, to do it the other way, but it's probably not quite as effective. That taper centers that stud in that hole, which is what you want. And then I'll just run them down with the impact gun. And that turns pretty free. The last thing we do is make sure there's 60 psi of air in this tire. So sticking with the Harbor Freight theme, I'll use our air chuck I got from Harbor Freight. There we go. So it came with 35, it's supposed to have 60. There's 60 psi. Well, 59.9, good enough, I'm calling it. And we'll put our cap on. Okay, at this point, we'll flip the trailer over. And I'll turn it around so I can still work up here. Okay, and I'll go ahead and stack up 2 of my blocks. And now what we'll do is put our trailer tongue piece on for the hitch. And remember, this is an accessory piece. It's for the 2-inch ball when it came with an 1 7/8, but I didn't want to deal with 1 7/8. So we'll put this on, which means I'll have to drill 1 hole. Okay, so I'll start with the first hole here. And what we're going to do is when I put this front bolt in, I'm going to go ahead and put the chain, which this is the center link of this chain, I'll put it in that bolt. Okay, so I've got the chain through that bolt with the center link. And now what I'm going to have to do, I'll tighten it up just a hair, but I've got to drill a hole here to put the second bolt in. Back to a 17mm setup. Okay, now I just need to drill me a hole and I'll put my second bolt in and we'll be done with this part. Okay, and I just threw this clamp on to make sure that this thing doesn't work its way up. Okay, and I'm going to drill from both sides instead of trying to go straight through. That way I make sure I don't end up drilling a new hole in this coupler. All right, so we'll stick our bolt in. Look at that, came out the other side, perfect. All right, trailer tongue is done. Okay, so let's take a look at the swing away trailer jack. This might be a little bit of overkill for this little trailer, but I don't want it sitting on this tongue when it's not being used. Okay, I'm just kind of guessing, but I think this looks like a pretty good spot for this tongue jack. See how it swings out of the way. Okay, that ought to do it. Definitely a little bit of overkill for this little trailer. So let me get the light stuck on it and be right back with you. Alrighty, there it is. This is the Hallmaster 1,090 pound capacity 40.5 by 48 inch utility trailer. And I did upgrade it. I put a 2-inch ball coupler on it because I didn't want to mess with having 1 7/8 trailers as well. Most of mine are 2 5/16, but I've got a couple 2-inch ones. I don't want to have any 1 7/8. And I did upgrade also and put this swing away jack on it. So we've got side marker lights and we've got the rear tail lights, and it has a license plate bracket holder. So what I'm planning to do with this thing, just looking at it, it actually is pretty dang small. It's very lightweight. Pick it up and move it about any place you want. Of course, you got to put a floor in it or sides, some kind of way to use it. Okay, and I'm going to build me a little fuel trailer out of this. So that'll be the next video. Alrighty, well, since this is a Harbor Freight review, this little trailer, I think it's going to work out fine for what we're going to do with it. I'm not sure that I would haul this down the interstate behind anything. I think it'd get lost behind a full-size truck. But to make my little fuel trailer I'm planning to do, I think it's going to work out just fine. So if you like this trailer build, give us a thumbs up. We'd encourage you to subscribe to see more, especially see how this fuel trailer works out. Have a great day and be safe.